Hi, everybody. My name is Margaret. Thanks for stopping by my channel. You are on BookTube. And today I'm doing a tag. I know it's Friday. It's revolutionary, right? It's not a Tuesday. This is fine. This is fine. We're bucking the trend. So welcome. I've got people in chat to say hello to. Author JC Carpenter. It's been a while. Nice to see you. Jenna says time to get some coffee. Love that like button. Shannon Houston says the same. I just came from Shannon's channel where I got 827 words on 3 of her 6 sprints because I had to do other things, but that was lovely. So thank you, Shannon. Shannon and Colin were hosting it up over there, making us have a great time. Hey, y'all, listen up. John is here saying, I approve of the mathematical equations on the thumbnail, but I'm missing one using pi. All right, we'll have to work on that. I think I was trying to get at the difficulty we all have with rating things fairly and objectively and how that's really impossible. But I was like trying to give the energy of that meme where someone's looking in the distance and like all the equations are going across their mind. That's what I was going for. So hopefully I succeeded with that. Shannon saying hello. People saying hello to Shannon. Anita is here saying just enough time between streams to get lunch. That is a quick lunch. You're a ninja with the lunch. If you can do that in 10 minutes, brilliant. Fancy background. Yes, we went fancy today. I don't know. I wanted a background that could be seen, and this is like the best one that I could find with the cutout. So this is as good a time as any to offer anyone who is interested in learning some little tricks about StreamYard and live streaming. I have an ongoing offering on Sundays where I have people come either backstage to mine or I go backstage on theirs, and I call it Sundays on StreamYard. So if you are streaming curious and want to know more about this, I'll pop this in the chat. There's just a little Google form to let me know where you're at and what you're trying to learn how to do so I can figure out what the best thing to do is. So if you fill out that form and give me a date that I've put on there, we can schedule out a session and get you moving on some StreamYard goodness, which is fun. So that's in the chat. Let's see. JC and Shannon giving each other some love. Shannon giving the background some love. Anita saying having leftovers helps. John did get the connection. There's a story behind my obsession with pie. Oh, okay. Well, I wonder if it has anything to do with the fruit kind of pie. There is the link for the sign-up form, which is really short in case anyone's worried. It's not a big deal. And Jenna just saying, woohoo, Jenna's back with coffee, so she's amped. Sweet. So what is the ratings and review tag about, besides not pie, obviously? It is a tag put together recently, so I'm not too far behind. I think this is less than 2 months old, by Gunpowder Fiction and Plot, which is Scott and Mel out in Australia. Pretty interesting. A lot of people have done this, so I'm obviously not the first. And I was tagged by Melissa at Fully Booked, who's a lovely booktuber friend up in Canada, Ottawa area. So hopefully she's doing well at the moment. And yeah, I'm just going to take us through our questions. We've got 11 questions, and we start out with the tagging of the folks. So I've tagged them down below in the descriptions, and it's going to be, spoiler alert, Kazan at Always Doing, Cynthia at Bookwhimsy, and Anna Bailey Caras, who is also an Australian booktuber. So we've got some people from around the world who I thought were particularly good at rating things in a specific way so that you know if you would like to read or not read, even if you don't have the same opinions as them. So hopefully we enjoy seeing some thought behind their systems, because I think we could all learn something from them. So that is my first prompt, to tag those folks. So hope you have fun doing this one. The second prompt is, how do you know you've finished a good book? Is it a thinking or a feeling response? Okay, so hopefully most people who know my channel know about this one. Definitely a feeling response. What feeling are you left with after you finish a good book? For me, it means I'm not confused, right? There's no confusion of what has happened or how I'm supposed to feel or what the message was. I feel satisfied. There's maybe some delight. There's maybe some learning. There's maybe some thinking, going on afterwards. But it's the feeling that I'm left with that makes me know whether it's a good book or not. And I can have, I should say, a range of feelings that make it a good book. But those are some of the ones that I usually experience and will happily put in a book review. So yeah, definitely a feeling, and satisfaction, delight, thought provoked. Those are the kind of things that usually give me a good book review. Prompt number 3 is, when do you begin to form your review or rating? What is the first question you ask yourself? Oh, not when do you, when you begin. Okay, so what's the first question you ask yourself when rating a book? I mean, this is kind of a similar response. It's, what feeling did I end up with? And not to get too woo-woo about it, but I sort of plumb the depths of my response to the book, right? So if I finish a book and I close the cover and I'm like, I'm not sure how to feel about that. That's confusing. I'll either wait and see if the dust settles and I have a more specific feeling, a more decisive feeling, or if that doesn't happen and I'm just sort of confused and it just stirs up confusion, then that's like going to go down on the scale. So the first question is, what's my feeling about the book? That's kind of the same. Design of the survey questions, I may have issue with this one, but I come from 2 sociological parents, so perhaps Scott and Nell have a different background and they don't care as much about survey questions. Okay, John says no connection with pie. Got it. Shannon says, I can agree with the feeling, but I think the thinking weighs more for me. Feelings will pass, but if I'm still thinking about it, then it's good for me. Interesting. Okay, so I think it's a Maya Angelou quote. I don't think that's a false attribution, where she says, people will forget what you've told them, but they will always remember how you made them feel. And so that's what I'm kind of identifying with here, is that my impression of the book is how it made me feel. And so that is what sticks with me long term. But you do have a point. I will have things pop up every so often that I'm like, oh, I forgot about that in that book. That's so interesting. And on Twitter recently, I actually put up a picture of Gold Diggers by Sanji Nasation, because it's a book that I read that like wasn't favorite, but it's very thought provoking. There are a lot of different threads in that book about cultural values and assimilation and belonging, because it's about Indian immigrants in the South and the sort of clash and striving for success. And there's also like a little historical bit where like, who was the first Indian in America? And there was one during the gold rush. And I've seen some random things about that. And so like the thoughts come back in and I think about those things, but it wasn't an overall book generated feeling that did that. It's just one of the streams pops up again and I remember it because it's soon enough in my short-term memory. So I would say that's less an accomplishment of the book and more a seed that the book planted. So I don't know. That's sort of a gray area. That's a very interesting thing to think about later. Shen says, I also form my opinions after finishing a book and letting it sit in my mind for a while. I wonder too if that's part of my personality, where I don't dwell on feelings and tend to avoid them until I have to face them in most cases. Could be. Her astute observation there. Okay, so prompt 3, I think we're done with. Prompt 4, do you use star ratings? Why or why not? Okay, so yes, I do use star ratings, except if I'm too close to the person, and a lot of authors on YouTube, I think, would say this too. If you know the person pretty well, or if you are, there's just sort of a gray area between friends and reviewing, that sometimes it feels okay to do it, and sometimes it feels strange because of your relationship. And so that's just sort of personal preference. And I give a wide berth to anyone who has any sort of policy on that, because yes, I totally believe it's valid to get an honest review for a free book or arc or review copy or whatever. And that's totally a fine system. But if you're friends with someone, it may just get a little weird if you're going to be critiquing. And so that's totally fine too. Or you can totally feel okay with critiquing a friend, and that's fine too. So I would just leave room for the case where it just feels too fragile to do, but also say, yeah, I do star ratings for most every book that I put up on Storygraph, which is my book rating system. And in case you don't know, Goodreads has 5 stars, nothing less than a whole number, but Storygraph has quarter stars. And so for people who are indecisive and like can't exactly land between a star or another, it's good for us. So yes. Jenna weighing in to say, it kind of depends on what you define as a friend as opposed to someone you work with in the writing business too. Exactly. And since that is another widely varying definition and value system, like open to interpretation and definitely open to whatever someone else's comfort level is what I'm trying to say here. Shannon says, if I don't feel I can give 5 stars to a book, I just don't review and rate. Friends or not, I just don't feel good doing it. Yeah, that makes sense. I just watched Dal Cecil Bruno's video about AuthorTube video topics, and she talks about authors giving book reviews on YouTube and how it's kind of a no-no. And I'm like, well, it's not if you can give 5 stars and review and rate that way, right? But then, that's kind of like a professional courtesy thing. It's like maybe if you don't give 5 stars on YouTube, the author will know and kind of go, okay, that's fair. If you're going to give 4 stars and don't want to give a 4-star review, that's fair. Or maybe they'd have a problem with it. I don't know. But you should probably have a thicker skin. At least I think I should at this point. So that's the model I try to live by. But I don't know. I feel like if any of these bigger name authors that are on A Mighty Blaze or the ones whose books I review come on YouTube and see me give well, I think this thing could have been developed more, or I wish we had spent more time with this character, I don't think that's going to hurt any feelings. It's not like I'm being a ranty person. Those are the type of reviews that I just don't have any time for, like why I take down this epic sci-fi fantasy author, that sort of thing. So that's the line that I draw it at, is a rant review. I've only had one of those, and it was because it was a cliffhanger. So everything else, I feel like I'm pretty measured. And if I was the author on the other side of that, I wouldn't feel hurt or called out or slandered in any way to have those reviews given. So I'm kind of working with the golden rule here for star ratings. So 4 has a couple other A's, an A and a B. 4A is, if yes, you give star ratings, explain your star rating system. What does a good book get in your rating system? So a good book is a 3 or a 4 in my system. And it's not exactly the same for every book, right? It changes via genre. It changes via when I made the rating. It changes via expectations. There's lots of moving parts. This is why it's never exactly the same. It is not a replicable science experiment. That is not how books work. So yeah, a good book could be anywhere from a 3 or a 4. So that's my answer. And 2, is your star rating consistent? I.e., are all your 5-star books better than all your 4-star books? And for this one, I said no, but it works for me. So I think the value of giving a book review on YouTube that you can explain and have more words around rather than just a star is that you get to finesse this lack of consistency. Because at the end of the day, I think if you're keeping track of your star reviews and storing it as a track record in Storygraph, as I do, that's for me. Like, that's for the reader. So that is a place where readers can talk to other readers about star ratings and likes and dislikes and whatever. And so as a reader, my star rating tracking system is to help me remember what I liked about a book, what I liked about an author, the writing style, the funny bits. I've had several years where I track like the quotes that made me laugh in a book in my private notes on Goodreads, and I've shifted that over into Storygraph. And so that's what I use that for. Um, so I'm not really looking for consistency in terms of that scientific exactness for a system, because in my own system, I will read the quote or read the blurb that I put in and know what I was thinking and be able to recreate the mood or the feeling of that book and remember what my feelings are or impressions are pretty quickly. For the reviews I give online on YouTube, the word cloud that I end up generating for tag videos as well as for book reviews, I would say, I think that is what I prefer to put out for other people to take away, if that makes sense. Star ratings are a good quick look, but the word cloud and explanation of what I liked or didn't like um, is what I think is useful for other people to decide if they want to read a book or not. So I won't go on and on if I don't like a book. And if I have like pros and cons, I will highlight the things that I thought were well done to see if people really like that trope, really like that device. And so that would be good for them to pursue. I'm not on here to be negative, is the bottom line. So I try to put out on YouTube what I think people will find useful, and I try to put on my own tracking system what I will find useful later when I'm looking for something to read. So that is a very long-winded answer. Sorry. I don't know why that took so long to explain. I hope it was clear. Jenna says, I'll put up a 4-star if I see where the author is in the process of growing. I read the start of another book published after the one I read, and it was better. Okay. Anita says, I don't give stars in my review videos, only on the sites that require ratings. Similar, my YouTube vids are recommends only. Yep. Shannon says, that's a good way to approach it, Anita. Yeah. Yeah. Kind of the same. Although I'll get a little critiquey if I'm doing a wrap up, which is like all the books that I read. Because that's fun. I don't know. Okay. Question 5. This is a silly one. I think this is a Scott one. Question 5. Since I didn't respond, no, I can skip those. Do you believe every book has its perfect reader? Does this contradict the idea that a book can be bad, in quotes? And this one took a lot of sort of like trying to figure out. I think maybe every book has its perfect reader. But I'm looking at this not as a philosopher, so other booktubers will have a different view on this who are more philosophical in their approach. But as a single reader, does every book have its perfect reader? Maybe. Like, it's kind of like asking if everyone has a perfect match out there somewhere. Like, I don't know. Like, there's stars in the sky, fish in the sea. These are numbers that I can't comprehend because I'm not a math person. So, some books can be, I will say, objectively badly written, but they could have a perfect reader. They could have someone who just needs like a mood lifter, and it's a funny book because the story is funny, or it's a nonfiction humor book that's like terribly edited, objectively terribly edited, but some person doesn't care about that. That's the perfect reader because they're just looking to laugh. Like, you never know. You're not the only person in the universe. As I said, stars in the sky, fish in the sea. So who am I to say that a book doesn't have a match out there somewhere? That's my view on that. And we're halfway through. So let me pause to say coming attractions everyone should be looking out for. And this is the main reason why I wanted to do this tag earlier in the day, to point everyone to a really cool panel that's going to be on Shannon's channel later today. So let me, boom, put up the banner. Shannon is hosting at 5 p.m. Pacific or 7 p.m. Central. I'll put this in the chat because I can't click on that link yet. So we have 5 people on this today. We're going to have 4 and then popped up a 5th superstar. Shannon is hosting. I am there. Amy Rosenfeld is there. She had a video recently that I pointed out that had a evaluating AI book covers, and That's just like my favorite one of her recent ones. Really funny. And Barrett Laurie, who is an author tuber extraordinaire with flair to spare. And the last minute mystery pop-up guest is Lisa Daly, who is a nonfiction writer and a romance writer and a hybrid author. So she's got all these sorts of experiences to bring to bear on this question. Topic of the panel is going to be author branding and the divide, especially the divide between talking to readers and talking to writers, which is on brand for this tag, because this is a book tag that is talking about book ratings, and I'm just straddling the line between the author in me looking at reading readers' ratings and reviews, and the reader in me looking at ratings and reviews and kind of like evaluating my golden rule and how that works. So if that is appealing or intellectually stimulating, hang on to your hats. Click the notification bell for this for later, and I hope to see you there. See you raise great questions. What else is happening this weekend alone? So if you're into flash fiction, Natalie Locke is going to be doing a epic 12-hour stream. So that is Sunday. She's starting at 5 a.m. my time, I think, and I will not be on that one. I will be getting up at 7:15 for her first social one, I think, and then again at 11-ish. So I'll be popping on. I think a lot of other people are sort of coming in and out, and she's going to have like a mass wrangling effort going on. But basically, we'll be writing flash fiction, popping on to socialize and talk about writer stuff, writing flash fiction, popping on to do social stuff. So that should be fun. I might have a Sundays on StreamYard if anyone signs up in between there. And then later in the day, I'll be on for the Voltron Force, which is hosted by Sandy this month. Crazy cats running down the hallway, all good. And so that'll be 4 p.m. at the end of the day. We'll just be doing sprints, and I will be continuing the good work started by Shannon today. And yeah, hopefully getting another few hundred words on Sunday with Sandy Golston and Steph at Coffee Over Apples, and Cache Warren at Shay with the Hobbies. So those are our 4 channels that rotate the Voltron Force productivity sprints. So that's usually at the end of the month on a Sunday as well. Okay, so that's my coming attractions. Let me catch up to the chat. Jenna says, and then there are people who write poorly on purpose in favor of satire. I don't know if you're pointing anyone out there or what. I don't tend to read satire, so yeah. Anita says, I know from experience, yes, a book can be bad. So very bad. But maybe there's a bad reader to match? I mean, right? I don't know. This is how people find each other in marriage sometimes. I don't know. And then you got all my coming attractions. So Jenna says, wow, at all the activity going on. I know, this week has been crazy. From Tuesday till next Monday. The 7 days are just like a blitz, right? So Shannon today, Natalie on Sunday, Voltron on Sunday, and then Barrett, if he ever puts up the event. I don't have a link to it, but Barrett will be interviewing me on Monday. So can't wait for that, to put out the word about that as well. So there we go. That is your coming attractions break at the middle of this book tag. Thanks for joining. Now, back to your regularly scheduled tag. So prompt number 6. What book that you hated have you recommended? And that is a null set. I do not recommend books that I hate. I think that's a strange question. I think it's coming from Scott and Nell being able to appreciate books that are not for them and recommending them because they're objective like that. That is not the type of reading recommender I am. So yeah, I don't think I've ever had a book that I hated that I would recommend. I think I'd have to come around to changing my opinion to it before I recommended it. Like recently, I really didn't enjoy reading Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison. That was a year ago. But then I was talking with Leo Bancroft, who's a local writer here in Portland. and we were talking about Invisible Man and how he had watched Bree's live discussion about Invisible Man and what she got out of it, and how that really helped them process what they were reading and how it boosted the rating. So I'm sure some of you have had that experience as well, where you read something and you're like, it's okay. But then you see someone else talk about what they loved about it, and you're like, oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, I really see that. Yeah, that makes sense. And so then your rating is boosted. So I would say if I ever hated a book, I would have to really have someone change my mind about it before I would recommend it. Long answer. Um, Shannon agrees. Don't think I could recommend a book I didn't like. So, yeah. Question number 7, prompt number 7 is, what makes a book good, bad, or great by your evaluation? And so I'm going to return to the question 1 and 2 here. This is a little repetitive. It's my feelings or impressions about the book built up over the span of reading it. So it could have a good start that draws me in. It could have a good climax or like solving of the mystery that draws me in. It could have a really good character that I identify with or root for during the book. It could have like a smashing ending scene where it's just like, oh my gosh, so epic and impressive and twisty. It could also be like a really well plotted one that's just really impressive. There's lots of things built up over the reading experience that could make me feel a certain way about a book. Those are all the positive ones. So I could go into the negative ones if anyone's interested, the things that tick me off, but I don't need to. I think everyone has their own picadillos. Jenna says, I have recommended a book I don't like, but it's been to students who like genres I don't, to be fair. Yes, yes. And interestingly enough, I think we'll probably have some of those, like with caveats, during the Black Author Tuber readathon report out, because I think we all liked some books more than others. And so we'll be hosting a live party about the Black Author Tuber readathon. And basically, I think doing the same thing that I do during my book reviews, which is reporting out the highlights for people who would find that useful for books that they would like to read, So, yeah. I think there was more young adult represented in the books that I normally read, or a different kind. So yeah. Anita says, I can dislike parts of a book and still recommend it, but if I don't like it as a whole, I won't. Yeah, it's fair, right? Because like, why would you want to make someone else have a bad reading experience too? Fair. What makes a good, bad, or great? So I'll skip the bad ones. Well, okay. Quick rundown of what I don't like in a book. If it's not edited well, if it is discriminating against populations in a way that is denying humanity, like that's a no-go. If I am really, really annoyed at the protagonist character and like can't be arsed to follow their growth cycle, like that's pretty bad. That's pretty bad that they didn't get any sort of sympathy for the reader from me, or the protagonist from me. If it conveys a message at the end that like cheaters prosper, or like liars can get their way and this is fine, that's the way of the world, that sort of thing doesn't sit well with me either. Those are the sort of things that I think make it bad in my estimation. Pacing that's too fast, pacing that's too slow. These are sort of like subjective ones. Characters I don't care about. Weirdly, I do love setting, but if something doesn't focus on the setting but has a really good story and characters, that's fine. That doesn't make it a bad book for me. That just makes it, they put their focus on something else and it's a different sort of book. Like thrillers, I think would be like that. If I get a good thriller, it doesn't have to focus on the setting. That's more for my type of book. So yeah, I can appreciate different things in different circumstances, what I'm trying to say. I'm versatile. So yeah. Maggie has walked into the chat. Hello, lovelies. Just got the notification. Throw up your hands to the universe. Yep. JC says it depends on why I don't like the book. If I've read a genre that I don't typically read because it was recommended to me and I don't like it, I could still refer it to someone to it who reads that genre. Exactly. Um, yeah, I think that's kind of what Jenna was saying to her students who she thinks would like something. So yeah, good deal. It might be that I didn't like the genre itself, but someone else who reads in that genre all the time may love it. Yep. So sometimes when I'm dipping outside my comfort zone, I can see the things that are not my jam, but I can also appreciate the craft of the person who put it together and I can recommend it to someone else. But that's not if I hated it. If I hated it, I wouldn't recommend it. Yeah. Okay, so that is good and bad, and let's move on to great. What is the feeling or impression that makes me rate a book or review a book as great? So like the 4+ stars moving up to the 5 stars. So um that I really learned something, that I really sympathize with the narrator, that I really am impressed by that ending scene and how well plotted it is. So I had a different experience with the Luminaries than my buddy, literarily smitten. I had a different experience with reading Essex Serpent than my reading buddies. And what was the latest one? Um, this is like last month, and Once Upon a River. So those three in the last year I've read as a buddy read with people, and they the reading experience, the story, like there were parts where it slowed down and I was confused, and there were parts where I didn't really get what was going on. But the ending feeling of just being impressed with how intricate the plot was woven in those three instances. I feel like those authors, so Essex Serpent is Sarah Perry, Luminaries was, I forget the name, someone will tell me in the chat, and Once Upon a River was 13th 13th Tale. Why am I blanking on her name as well? Anyway, I think they're all British women, and it was just like fangirling at watching how someone does a magic trick, because it was so complicated that I ended up with like, wow. And maybe because I was reading with people who were readers and not writers, that I had a much higher rating for those books than the people who I was reading with, who were like just seeing the flaws. And I was just like, wow. I mean, yes, I had some flaws in my experience as well, but like, whoa. I could just really appreciate it. So I was there for that. So yeah, that's good, bad, and great. So that is my question 7. Maggie saying, I will not DNF a book for gratuitous abuse. Oh, I will DNF a book for gratuitous abuse that does not apply to the plot or character development. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Shannon. Diane Setterfield is Once Upon a River. Can anyone remember the Luminaries? Thank you. Jim is here from Jim's Books, Reading and Stuff. Hello, Jim. The Luminaries. The Luminaries. Come on, it's another plain one. Anyway, okay. Not on my short-term memory. Not going to worry about it. Prompt number 8 for this is, moving right along here. When evaluating the quality of a book, do you have specific criteria or aspects of the book, such as character development, that you consider? Does this change if you're writing an in-depth review versus just thinking about the book for enjoyment? Okay. Uh-oh. Okay. I was having trouble reading my writing. Hold on. Specific criteria for measuring quality. Okay, so quality quality of the book, like I won't give something 4 stars or above if it's got like rampant typos, rampant use of cliches, and doesn't manage to elicit feelings. Those are things that I require to be in a 4-star or above kind of book. I think those are the only sort of hard and fast things. That's like my minimum for 4 and above. So yeah, I don't really have any hard and fast rules for the other ones. Like I said, not a scientific formula. Let me take that down. Thank you, Jim. Eleanor Catton, Luminaries. Thank you. Trying to stay on target because I've only got a few minutes left for my hour slot here. Is it different for in-depth reviews versus pure enjoyment? And I would say yes. I get more numerical. Oh, I try to be more scientific and more objective when I'm doing an in-depth review. And I will do, I think it's Vens Between the Lines, who has this sort of specific formula for doing her single book reviews that's very or more formal, I'll say. So I'll get more into those types of things like plot and character and pacing and setting and analyzing those for an in-depth review versus if I'm just reading for pure enjoyment, like my Sherilyn Kenyon. I don't need to go in depth on that. I can just enjoy it for what it is. If anyone knows that author, you hear me. You know what I'm talking about. Exactly. So depends on the genre, depends on the hype, depends on the expectations, whether I go in depth or try to rationalize why I rated this a certain way if it's against the mainstream. I guess that's what I would say. So that's that. Prompt number 9, moving right along. Prompt number 9, do you consider star ratings or average ratings when choosing books to read or add to your TBR? No, I mainly go by the impression I get from people giving reviews, or the impression I get from the cover, because covers sell books, guys. It's the truth. If actually, since being on BookTube, I get a lot more impressions of if people like books. Obviously, you're exposed to more hype on BookTube, but I've also been exposed to more in-depth reviews because when I produce On a Mighty Blaze, for example, I will get a lot more mysteries than I'm used to. And zeitgeisty books, that's another one I produce for. So I'll be exposed to more out there books, I think, than I would normally. So my impression is formed from the author talking about their own book in that case, which I think is pretty cool, which is just a little plug for watching A Mighty Blaze. So yeah, so if you haven't found a show that you like on A Mighty Blaze, I don't know what you're doing because they have everything there except sci-fi fantasy, which sometimes shows up on the Thoughtful Bro. So they just started a romance one called Blaze Boudoir. It's going to be the 4th Wednesday in the evening, and you should definitely watch their first foray because it's hilarious. It's a lot of good fun. So how did I get on that tangent? Considering adding books to my TBR, right? So I get some from A Mighty Blaze, which is from the author, which is not your usual way. I get stuff from BookTube, which is more like the hype books that are hyped, which is not my preferred way. So I'll put something on my wish list for Storygraph. And sometimes I do a clean out of those because if I can't remember who it was or why I liked it or what was good about it, I'll take it off because I'm not going to spend money on it, right? And then the other way I put books on my TBR is if I acquire the book. So this is the old school me coming out. I cruise used bookstores in real life and we'll find plenty of books that way by talking to booksellers, by seeing something on a shelf, by happenstance, par hasard, as you will see. And that is how I got into this mess. That is how I got into this conundrum of having so many books that I could walk in my garden of books forever. And so I've been working on bringing that down, reading the books, getting them out the door. I tried to do a redistribution thing with Patreon and send books to people who I thought would enjoy them by little giveaway things, but that really didn't work because the people who would win it by chance didn't want the books that I was offering up, didn't match up right. So I got to think of a different way. But in the meantime, I'll just bring them to the used bookstore that's local and find good homes for them. But yeah, so Mighty Blaze, BookTube, and used bookstores. This is pretty good. That's plenty. It's plenty of input for my TBR. So we'll stop there. Let's see. Jim saying hi. Shannon saying, I definitely didn't know that one. Eleanor Catton. Yeah, it's like a big award-winning book, but very astrology. It's like a seeing eye book. If you know astrology and you go into the plot and analyze it, you'll get so much more out of it. But if you don't, you'll still enjoy a good book. Wait. Jenna says, Acheron is in your life? Wait, what? Okay, I missed the significance of this. You'll have to explain it to me. Jim says, when I want to read a book by an author, I will see which of the author's books has the highest ratings. So he does use a rating system on a website. Interesting. Not me, baby. Final question. Oh, well, final question but one. Number 10, who on BookTube does reliable and interesting reviews of books that you know you can use to decide if a book is for you or not? What makes the reviews so good? And so this is the one that I spoiled earlier. The people who I tagged are my favorite specific reviewers that came to mind for this tag. So Cousin of Always Doing, she... Oh, yes. Jenna caught my Sherilyn Kenyon mention. Dark Hunter for Life. Yes, it's a fantasy romance reference. Sorry if anyone got left out in the cold for that. Yes. I can't remember Acheron, what character that is. But anyway, yes. Thank you, Jenna, for cueing into that one. So Cousin at Always Doing is a book reviewer who does a lot of romance reviews and does a lot of diverse reads in romance. So neurodivergent, ability divergent. That's not the word for it. What am I looking for? Disabled rep. That's, I think, the accepted term. Different racial backgrounds, getting all sorts of romance, and definitely LGBTQ representation. So she does it all. She has tried all the things. She is like deep within the exploration mode of all these things and loves interpreting it, sort of giving her system, as this tag would probably ask her to repeat for everybody. But yeah, she's just very transparent about things, very willing to try new things, and keeps up with not controversies, but like the latest way to embrace and include all populations. And so that's what I really appreciate about Cousin. So there you go. Shouting out Cousin and shooting some love her way. Cynthia at Book Whimsy is, where is she? She's in the US. Can't remember where she is. Southwest? Anyway, she is a professor of feminist French history. Awesome. And reads lots of books. She has a diverse reading rep. She's the one who recommended, and this is why it sticks in my head, Not You Had Me at Ola. Oh, and now I'm going to forget How to Fail at Flirting. There you go. She's the one that recommended that one to me. Great romance. And she is very analytical mind, very open to different kinds of books, reads a lot of new releases. I think she just started with doing Neck LA stuff when she started her BookTube channel. So she's like open to that, but also does lots of hard-hitting nonfiction and academic stuff. So she's like, woo, runs the gamut, sorry. So Cynthia is great to watch as well. And who's the last person that I tagged in here? Anna Bailey Caras. Okay, so she has a podcast with another person in Australia, and she reads books that I have never heard of. So she's, vying for my crown of queen of books you've never heard of. Trying to get that out there again. And she has very thoughtful reviews of books that I've never heard of, and, may actually find it hard to pick up and find in the wild. But things like Indigenous reads for Australia. Excuse me. As like the last bit of the morning frog. And so I really appreciate her getting books across the transom, if you will, that I want to be aware of, because it's a different population. It's not the US, it's not the UK, it's not white women writing, which is what I tend to have access to most easily. And so I love that in my life as well. So yes, those are my 3 favorite reviewers for reliable, being able to tell me, even if they like something that I won't, or they don't like something I might, like they'll be able to give me recommendations that way, which is brilliant and very valuable. So thank you all 3 for the work that you do for BookTube. Okay, so that is 10. And the last question Scott and Nell have for us, prompt 11. Do those booktubers use different language than you to evaluate and review the overall quality of a book? And I will say yes, it's inherent in their systems, which they explain very well. And I've picked up some of their language and incorporated it into my reviewing. Not all, and some of our systems are still different, obviously, but they have elevated my system of rating and reviewing, for which I thank them and I appreciate them very much. So yes, there we go. We did it. I was a little afraid of this one being like on the author and the reader side. So whew, thank you, Melissa, for tagging me. I hope I did justice to this tag. The people that I have watched do it, which is a lot of the people that I'm subscribed to, had great things to say. I think we can be on different sort of bases when we're talking about this topic and have different systems, but still appreciate our commentary on the books, which is why I won't be scared to keep reviewing books as an author on YouTube. Yeah, you can't get rid of me. So I barely finished Under the Wire. I thought I was getting better at ending sooner, but no, I took the full hour for this one. Thank you for coming by and listening to this book tag. I appreciate you watching and commenting and being a subscriber and liking this video. So if you haven't done that, now's the time to like the video, because I just remembered to remind everybody. And like I said, I've got those coming attractions. The panel later today is going to be off the hook. So if you're available at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern, we'll be talking on Shannon's channel, and that link is it'll be in the cards, I guess, after I watch and replay, or it'll be in the description. So thank you for that. Okay, catch up here with the last bit of chat before we sign out. Shannon saying, yay, I can't wait to talk with her later today. She's going to be great. Jenna says, congrats. Maggie says, reading translated books is interesting, or books written by people who are writing in English as their 3rd or 4th language. Ooh, yes. None of those folks are reviewing in a language that is not their first language. Actually, Cynthia might be a first language Spanish speaker. I'm not sure. She's bilingual, at least trilingual as a studier. So yeah, but that's writing, not reviewing. Well, I don't know. They can weigh in. You should definitely tune in to see their version of the tags when they get them out. I'm not putting a time limit on it. It takes me 2 months to do most tags. So I will see it when I see it, if they have the time. So I'm very grateful for that. Shannon saying, thanks for your answers and insights. Maggie saying, thanks for the stream. We'll catch the beginning on the replay. Love it. Good time zones. Catch you on the replay. I love our booktube language. See, we're speaking to each other on the same plane. I love it. So thanks again, everybody, and I will see you at 5 p.m. Pacific on Shannon's channel or somewhere in the ether. Thanks again. Have a great weekend.